Good morning. As Laura said, I'm Marilyn Martin, the president. It is once again great to join you for our class preview, the fall preview of Encore Learning's 46th semester. Encore Learning continues for all these 46 semesters to continue to provide for all of our members a chance to explore, learn, and connect with others. In our very complicated era of new and ever-changing issues and challenges, we hope some of our classes might provide some insight and even help in finding answers to the questions raised each day. I'm excited about our offerings for this fall. We have 41 courses, that's more than ever, 31 of which are new. Many, 24, will be in person. Another 11 classes will be virtual, and with another 7 being hybrid, combining both online and in-person participation. There will even be a few outdoor classes. No matter your preference, get ready to sign up for this fall. We think most of you have mastered using Zoom for our virtual classes. But if you need assistance, please know that we have Zoom resources on our website to assist, and please feel free to reach out to us if you need more help. While taking virtual classes, this is a good time to remind, while talking about virtual classes, this is a great time to remind everyone that we once again will be recording several of our courses, 15 planned so far, to be available for members to view later. Online registration will begin on Monday, September 8th at 10 a.m. That's next week, Monday. At that time, as you'll remember from the past, all of our courses in the online catalog go live. They're ready for sign up. Classes that you choose, just click on them, and they'll be displayed with a link that says register now. Click that link for any class or classes for which you want to register, and the website will guide you through the rest of the registration process. But again, if you have any trouble, please feel free to contact us at info@encorelearning.net. There will always be someone who can help you. We always suggest that you plan to, quote unquote, sign up early, although registration will continue all the time, all up until classes begin. But since some of our classes are very popular, when you click to register, you might be informed that a course is full and you are on a waiting list. Please do not take that as closing you out of that course forever. Course capacities are determined by instructors and space availability and can change from time to time as we accommodate member choices. Capacity may be increased if that works for the instructor and the locale. Also, people change their minds and their selections, opening slots for those on the waiting list. So do not be put off by being on a waiting list. There's always hope. Courses do have a minimum of 10 students for them to be offered. If you register for a course with low enrollment, you'll be notified so that you can try to recruit some friends to sign up so the class can continue to be offered. And while registration opens on September 8th, you can, as we note, register later than Monday's official start of registration. Many courses will have availability all the way up to their scheduled course date. We're about to launch our previews in a couple of minutes from each of the instructors, explaining their course and welcoming you to join them. But first, let me do a quick shout out to the many teams that make our classes possible. Committee chairs and volunteers from academic programs, publications, membership, class aides, volunteer, and information technology. Without the great work of these volunteers, and they are volunteers, we would not have these terrific courses. While all of our volunteers make it happen, let me name the backbone of our program, the members of the Academic Program Committee. Without them, we would not have these classes. These individuals find topics, instructors, and develop and work to create the courses. So thank you. Thank you to chairs Deb Spiro and Susan Bornstein. And of course, the past chair, Jean Labella, who will be here today. Susan's traveling the world this morning, so she's not joining us. Also in academic programs, let me thank Tom Adams, Huda Bauman, Mary Kay Davis, Peter French, Kathy McCormick, Ed Rader, Marge Signer, and Wendy Swanson. So many to thank, but even more. Thanks to those who serve as class aides and to our excellent instructors who volunteer both their time and their expertise. We are lucky to have this cadre of helpers and professionals. And a quick note for anyone who may want to become a class aide. We still have some openings, so when you register for a class, it may ask if you'd like to be a class aide. Please consider doing so. Our our instructors very much appreciate the support that the class aides provide. And it even gives you as a class aide a chance to engage with the instructor and in a subject that you're very interested in. I also want to thank our outstanding staff, especially Donna, who worked with all these instructors to record the videos you're about to see, and to Carrie, who manages the whole course process. Patty, who kindly responds to all of your questions, and of course to Laura, who luckily keeps things running along. And let me give a shout out today to our friends at Bailey's Crossroads in Alexandria, Goodwin Living at Bailey's Crossroads and in Alexandria. They're showing this preview today in their rooms. Welcome. Also, let me do a quick shout out to the Landing, which is at Potomac Yard, another location for people who enjoy learning as older folks. And also, let me thank you, all of you, for your superb job. And there's also the Fitzgerald on MacArthur Boulevard, and they recently have joined us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good to see you all. As noted, our preview this morning will be brief videos from our instructors describing their classes. We'll commence momentarily and take a break for about 10 minutes around 10:45. We can answer any questions you may have at that point. The final course video descriptions will end probably around 11:40, 11:45, when we'll also entertain any questions. Should you not be able to tune in for this entire presentation, these preview videos will be available on our YouTube channel tomorrow. So if you missed one, would like to review again, or you want to share a course idea with a friend that cannot do this today, YouTube will be available tomorrow. These presentations will also be available through the class catalog. Just click on and you'll see the same presentation. Now, enough commentary. On with the preview. Hosting our preview program are our two fabulous leaders, past and present, of academic programs, Jean Labella and Deb Spiro, who will introduce each segment of the program. I'm very glad you could join us this morning and hope you enjoy the previews. Deb and Jean, please start our program.
Thanks, Marilyn, and welcome everybody. It's great to see everybody here this morning. As Marilyn mentioned, I am the former co-chair along with Deb Spiro of Academic Programs Committee. I'm filling in today for my successor, Susan Bornstein, who is off on an exotic vacation. We were chatting just before the program started this morning about how pre-pandemic we used to have this event every year in person. And I wondered aloud if we would have it in person ever again. The advantage of having it virtually like this is that we can bring you something from all of our instructors. Many of our instructors are scattered across the map. We have at least one who's in California, I know, another one in Richmond. And it would be pretty impossible to get all of our instructors in one room. So doing it virtually makes it nice. We can get almost everybody in the room, if you will. And we also have the advantage of being able to share what they said through our YouTube channel afterwards. Anyway, enough about that. Deb?
Thank you, Jean. I also want to join in welcoming all of you to learn about what we're going to provide this fall. It's going to be a fabulous semester. Just a word to thank you, Jean, for your wonderful co-chair work. I don't know how it could be done without you. Luckily, you're still staying on the committee, and we will keep you very busy. And welcome next time you'll be seeing Susan, the new co-chair. So having said that, let's get started with the course previews. The first section is Fine Arts, and followed by Health and Wellness.
Hello, everyone. I am Steve Piloff. I will be teaching Never Too Old to Play. Learning improv is for everyone. During the day, I am a finance professor at the Costello College of Business at George Mason, At night, I turn into an improviser, performing improv, teaching improv, organizing and hosting shows. And so I am very, 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 very excited for this course. If you like to laugh, if you enjoy connecting with other people, if you like using your imagination, if you find being creative fun, this is the class for you. It will connect, we'll develop a group trust, it'll be really fun. We'll do a variety of exercises, games, activities where we make up stories and make up scenes and pretend and use our imaginations. It'll be a very doing class. All the activities can be modified so that any physical restrictions can be dealt with. So if you're watching this, you are welcome. You will have a good time, and I hope to see you in Never Too Old to Play. Learning improv is for everyone.
Mozart wrote 3 operas with the Italian librettist Lorenzo da Ponte. 2 of these operas, Marriage of Figaro and Don Giovanni, are masterpieces. They're 2 of the greatest works of art in the entire Western canon. The third, Così fan tutti, has a somewhat flawed libretto, but is still so filled with great music that it's still a common part of the modern operatic repertory. So my course will deal with all 3 of these operas. First of all, I'm going to set it in the context of the musical style at the time, so-called classical style, and the operatic practices at the time, both to show you the kind of tools that Mozart was using, and also to show you how deeply revolutionary these works are. Mozart broke the mold when he wrote these operas, and in order to understand how he did that, you have to understand the nature of the mold. Then I'll go into the biographical backgrounds, both of Mozart and of Lorenzo da Ponte. Lorenzo da Ponte was born in a Jewish ghetto north of Venice, became the court librettist in the court in Vienna, and ended his life in the 1830s as an American citizen teaching Italian in Columbia University. I'm going to give you background in the source works for these operas, both the trilogy by Beaumarchais, the Figaro trilogy, which Napoleon said that Marriage of Figaro was the first shot fired in the French Revolution because the play was so filled with social criticism of the aristocratic class. And Don Giovanni is based on the Don Juan legend, which also has its own history. I'm going to we'll watch extended excerpts from all 3 of the operas, along with some light musical analysis. If you haven't seen these operas before, you're in for, I think, a revelatory experience. But even if you're familiar with these operas, I hope I'm going to give you enough background to deepen your appreciation of these great works. Hope to see you in the fall.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carol Moreland, and this fall I'll be teaching a course titled Japanese Art, Words, and Images. If you spent much time looking at Japanese painting, you've probably noticed that it often carries an inscription, sometimes a very long one. And it's not just paintings, but you can find words or single Chinese characters as part of the design on lacquerware, ceramics, textiles, you name it. It's entirely possible, of course, to appreciate a Japanese artwork without reading the words written on it. But what I'd like to explore in this class is how the words and the images they accompany work together to create an artwork, how they tell a story, say, or convey a tenet of Buddhist belief, or recreate in a portrait the presence of a beloved teacher. Calligraphy has traditionally been of tremendous importance in East Asian cultures. And when it's paired with an image, a kind of symbiosis occurs. And this is quite different, I think, from what happens or how images and texts are treated generally in the West. We'll focus first on the image. What is the subject of the artwork? Who was the artist? Who was the intended audience? What materials and techniques were used? How does the work fit into Japanese art history as a whole? Then we'll look at the inscription. What does it say? Who is the calligrapher? What style of calligraphy did they use? What about the placement of the text? How does it function as part of the overall composition or design? And then most importantly, how does all this affect our understanding of the image? We'll be concerned primarily with paintings, but we'll also look at lacquerware and ceramics. And when Chinese art can supply an especially good example, I'll slip some of that in as well. The format of this course will be the same as others that I've taught. I'll come with a PowerPoint presentation and tell you what I think is important about each of the works. One of the joys, though, of teaching for Encore Learning is that you, the students, bring such rich, varied experiences to class. And so I'll look forward to your good questions, comments, and insights. We'll be jumping around chronologically, so I'll supply a timeline of Japanese art history, and I'll also post links to supplementary materials. My hope is that by looking at the masterworks I've chosen, where the words written on them play an important role, play an important part, you'll come away with new ways to understand and appreciate both Japanese art in particular and East Asian culture more generally. So if you enjoy looking at art and want to learn a little bit more about Japanese art, I welcome you to join me in the fall. Thank you.
Hello, Encore Learning. It's Mike Agron, your music aficionado, and thank you for inviting me back to present my second musical seminar series. This one's called The Soundtrack of Rock and Pop in the 50s and 60s, where we're going to go back to New York and visit the Brill Building era. New York, of course, was the center of the great tunesmiths and composers from Tin Pan Alley, but the tradition carries on with such composers as Carole King and Jerry Goffin, Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller, Neil Sedaka and Howard Greenfield, Ellie Greenwich and Jeff Barry, Doc Pomus and Mort Schumann, Burt Bacharach, Hal David, and of course, Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller. These tunesmiths, along with Phil Spector and Don Kirshner, shaped a whole new sound that we enjoyed on our transistor radios and listened to while we ate our TV dinners. This is a very exciting course because in the late 50s, like 58 to 64, 65, these tunesmiths came in and created a soundscape. Think of the Drifters. Think of Save the Last Dance for Me or Up on the Roof. Think of the Righteous Brothers with You've Lost That Love and Feeling and so many other great classics. We're going to unpack the stories of these vibrant personalities behind them, including the singers and the groups, and we're going to have a lot of fun revisiting and exploring and unpacking this great time of music. It also was a time when Latin rhythms were fused with rock and roll. It integrated audiences before desegregation. It also fused Black and Latino and R&B, jazz, and all different types of music. I can't wait to share this with you. I look forward to it. We'll be on Zoom. Thank you, and I hope to see you soon. This is Mike Agron saying bye for now.
Why was folk music such a major part of my soundtrack of life when I was young? I started with that question when I began to research why that music entered our culture. I started with researching the folks who actively pursued finding this music, old songs from our past. My name is Linda McCleave. I will be presenting a class for you called Song Hunters. The class will feature A.P. Carter and Alan Lomax and the songs they collected, primarily in the 20s through the 40s. These songs strongly influenced the folk music revival of the 20th century, which peaked in the 60s. Artists featured will include the Carter Family, Lead Belly, Woody Guthrie, Pete Seeger, Bob Dylan, and many more. This class will be informative, fun, and will remind you of our shared musical past.
Hi, I'm Deborah Kaplan. I'm a docent at the Smithsonian American Art Museum in downtown DC. This fall, I'm offering a course, my third for Encore Learning, built around an upcoming exhibit there. In 1936, a 76-year-old widow, Anna Mary Robertson Moses, took up painting to pass the time in her upstate New York home. By 1940, her paintings had been shown at New York's Museum of Modern Art and at a prestigious Manhattan gallery. These initial public viewings launched the career of Grandma Moses, as the press soon came to call her. From the early 1940s until her death in 1961, her idealized scenes of country life were immensely popular. In upstate New York, she had charged a few dollars for each painting. In the 1940s and 1950s, they sold for thousands of dollars. Her paintings also adorned Hallmark greeting cards and dinner plates. Because of her advanced age and sprightly personality, Grandma Moses herself became what we'd call a media superstar. She appeared on radio and TV shows and on the cover of Time magazine. Although her personal popularity waned after her death, her paintings are still highly valued. They are on view in many museums and have been the subject of special exhibits, including one opening in October at the Smithsonian American Art Museum. That exhibit, presenting 88 of her paintings, provides an opportunity for us to consider the social and cultural significance of Grandma Moses's work and career, not only then in the 1940s and 1950s, but also now. What meaning might they have for us today? The course will also explore the experience of being a self-taught artist in America. How is it possible to be outside of the art world, to not go to art school, to not know other artists or aesthetic trends and styles, to not know anything about the art market, and to still become a famous, commercially successful artist? The course will meet 4 times, twice at Encore Learning's Arlington campus and twice at the American Art Museum. We'll discuss Moses's life story, probing both why she did not become an artist until her late 70s and what made it possible. At the museum, we'll look closely at her paintings, focusing on her methods, themes, and style. We'll also explore the careers of other self-taught artists and have a chance to tour their artworks. Finally, we'll consider the role museums have played in promoting the work of self-taught artists. A great many people loved Grandma Moses's paintings in the post-World War II American world, but not everybody. There were harsh critics too. So even if you don't like her paintings, I hope you'll join the class as we explore all responses to her work and to that of other outsider artists. Thanks, and I hope to see you soon.
Hi, I'm Sarah Parks. I am the instructor for the estate planning class that's being offered by Encore Learning this fall. I'd like to invite you to come to the class to learn the basics of estate planning and what your options might be if you choose to do your own estate plan. There won't be any extra reading. I give you a handout with each class that's generally in the form of a PowerPoint, and hopefully that'll be all you'll need. The class is designed to answer a couple of basic questions. These are questions that I hear frequently, and they're good questions. The first is, what is estate planning? And the second is, why does it matter if I have an estate plan in place? Estate planning targets times in our lives when we may not be able to take care of our affairs for ourselves. Generally, people are living longer, but they're not living quality of life at the end of life. So we have periods of incapacity, whether it's physical incapacity or whether it's mental incapacity. And during those times, estate planning allows you now to set the guidelines for how you want to be treated and cared for during any period where you can't care for yourself. The second aspect of estate planning takes care of what happens after you die, And how is your estate going to be distributed among your family and friends, or whoever you're choosing to leave it to? These are the types of things that we'll talk about in class. During periods of incapacity, it's possible to name someone in a legal document who will be authorized to make medical care decisions for you. It's also possible to name somebody in a legal document that will be authorized to make financial and business transactions for you. It's also possible to set up a trust, which makes things easier for someone to take care of you if you are incapacitated, either temporarily or permanently. Because these are legal documents, if they're signed, notarized, witnessed, in other words, executed properly, they'll have the force of law behind the choices that you've made. This is very important because it allows your agent or whomever you've appointed to make decisions for you, to have the authority to go into a hospital or into your doctor's office and have the authority to make medical decisions for you. If you don't have something in writing, if you don't have something that's a legally appropriate document, then your loved ones may not have that right, or it may be given to someone that you wouldn't choose to have that right. We also discuss all of the options for having estates distributed after your death. We can use wills, we can use trusts. Depends on what your situation is and what your desires are. But if you're interested in an estate plan, if you're interested in learning about these concepts, then please come to class. Having an estate plan in place is something that makes your end of life situation much easier for yourself and for your family members. Reducing conflict is what it's all about. I hope I'll see you there.
Hello, I'm Sally Wiley, and I'm excited about teaching this course, Embracing Life's Changes and Choices. There will be 6 sessions with 3 primary focus areas. I'll explain that in just a minute, a little bit about my background. As a former federal employee, I had 40 years experience with leading training, career development, leadership programs, mentoring, coaching, and I'm going to draw on my background as a certified federal coach, my experience with counseling employees at all levels of different agencies, working with military personnel in transition, and my experience as a volunteer with hospice where I supported patients and families. Every day we experience change, and we have to step up and rise to the occasion. It affects us personally, as a community, as a nation, but we can learn ways to embrace it, whether we initiate it or it's thrust upon us. We cannot change some circumstances, but our power is the key as how we choose to respond. And overall, this course is, the goal is to help you make choices to live your very best life. The first focus area is going to be moving from acquaintance to friendship, deepening those connections, personal relationships, even those that may have soured a little in the past, and learning tips to take it to the next level, to, like I say, from acquaintance to friendship and more meaningful connections, and strengthen those we already have. The second focus will be living life to the fullest, regardless of circumstances. It can be so excited if we take life off hold and not settle for anything less than the best. So we're going to learn tools to renew our energy, reignite that spark for our vitality, but also how to slow that runaway train down and look for ways for greatest awareness, added meaning, and fulfillment. And the third focus is our power and gift of choice and how we respond to continuous change. So we're going to learn tips, share ideas to adapt and adjust, to draw on your wisdom and your life experiences and tap into your creativity. The course structure, as I said, will feature 6 sessions with those 3 primary areas: identifying, building meaningful connections, taking life off hold to live it to the fullest, and then making choices to embrace change. The structure will be small group discussions, large group discussions, so that you can interact exchange your ideas and viewpoints with each other. And I'll give you lots of fun and creative activities so that you can explore and inspire one another. I'll also provide information, examples, resources, tools, and relatable stories. Hopefully, I think you'll find it a lot of fun and interesting, very interactive, and mostly go away with the ability to make choices to live your very best life. I hope you can join me. Thank you.
Hey, that's all very exciting. And now we're going to move on to the largest category of our courses this morning, and those are the history courses. We have 11 history courses that are going to be offered this fall. So let's hear what our professors have to say.
Hi, I'm Marty Sadam, the instructor and walking tour guide for the Walks with the Rambler course. When writing Walks with Charlie, third edition, a book that is part memoir and part 2020's hindsight perspective on the history of South Arlington, I found the work of photographer and newspaper columnist J. Harry Shannon, 1869 to 1928. I was able to weave some of Shannon's stories into the book. Moreover, I became a fan of a man who died nearly 100 years ago. My research into Shannon included discovering and curating most of his published articles, over 650, and many others suspected to have been written by him before he had his own column, The Rambler, in the Washington Sunday Star. I assembled and published a book, Walks with the Rambler, a scrapbook of Arlington, Alexandria, and Fairfax, Virginia, 1907 to 1927, with relevant articles, photographs, and other information about Shannon and how to read his column. This course is a successor to my Walks with Charlie courses offered in each fall with Encore Learning in 2019 through 2023, and was taught as a walking course in fall 2024, and as an indoor, in-person lecture discussion for Goodwin Living in spring 2025. The course includes 5 walks featuring the history of Arlington and Alexandria as reported by the Rambler. Added to the history will be discussions about nature. We will also have guest Arlington master naturalists with us. This course takes a 1900s hindsight perspective on the same general geographic area as Walks with Charlie, but instead of walking with Charlie, my dog and best friend, we walk with the Rambler. The course explores the following areas in succession: the Arlington National Plantation and Cemetery, Fort Myer, and Columbia Island, the Potomac Shore, Annalaston Island, and Roslyn, the Green Valley Plantation, the Preston Plantation and Alexandria, and lastly, Fort Richardson and New Convalescent Hospital. Each session provides an introduction and orientation to the tour of the day, followed by a walking tour of the area described by the Rambler stories. Each walk is designed with consideration for adequate, free parking, and a 2-mile walking circuit designed to avoid traffic, be shaded, and be generally flat. We may take stops along the route where group discussion is easier than on the fly. I plan to use the Live Voice smartphone app so all participants are able to clearly hear me and the comments by participants. For class members wanting the book, Walks with a Rambler, I will provide at cost $5, otherwise available from Amazon for $10 per copy. I hope to see and walk with you as the autumn leaves add color to our Arlington and Alexandria.
Hello, my name is Roy DeLauder. I'm here to introduce my introductory genealogy course. Genealogy is more than names and dates for Encore Learning. Genealogy is sometimes called family history. I like to think of it as your family in history. I've been doing genealogy as a hobbyist for more than 40 years. Obviously, I started before there was this thing called the internet. The internet has made it so much easier to do genealogy. Now, instead of having to visit the courthouse or the cemetery or traveling to look at microfiche and microfilm, there's much more that can be done at home. There's much on the internet with more coming every day. However, there are some things that will never be online. In this course, we'll take a look at how to get started, how to record your data, where and how to start using the internet, some pitfalls, some tips, some new developments in the field, such as DNA, AI, and where to go from here. How do you put all these puzzle pieces together? This introductory course is not intended to make you a professional genealogist. It is intended to give you a broad overview of the field. We'll discuss where to go from here. So what were your family stories? What was life like for your ancestors? How was your family affected by history going on around them? Did your ancestors serve in World War II or the Civil War? Or did they leave Ireland because of the potato famine? Was your family name changed at Ellis Island? This is an urban myth. Almost none were changed at Ellis Island. Names were changed by individuals or families after they walked out of Ellis. The people at Ellis spoke more than 30 languages, including Yiddish. In summary, genealogy is about who, what, where, when, and how. Thanks and have a nice day. I look forward to seeing you in class.
My name is Muhammad Zafarullah. I am the Imam of Ahmadiyya Muslim community stationed in the Virginia, Chantilly, and the Mubarak Mosque. And I am going to teach about the Islam, which is the religion which all over the world. And I have been working in Islam as a Imam and as a teacher and as a giving the information to the people from 1982. First, I worked in Pakistan, and then I was sent to the West Africa, Sierra Leone, and then I came back and I was appointed in America. From 1999 to up to now, I am in working in different places in Houston, Texas, Dayton, Ohio, and Los Angeles, Chicago, and now in here. I'm going to teach about the Islam, what is the religion of Islam, and the pillar of Islam, which is the prayer and the Quran and the fasting month, and going visit to Hajj and prayers. That is the pillar of Islam. And the article of our faith is we believe in Allah, one God, and the angels and the books and the prophets, and also the day of the judgment. These are the most important article of the faith which we are going to discuss. And there are many questions. Living in America, people talk about the Islam is the is the jihad. What they think that the Islamic people, they want to kill the people, but that is not the right. What is the jihad? And then what is the status of the women also? They also talked about the Islam did not give permission to the women, and also they always emphasize them to cover their up. I will also explain that one. And whatever the question I like anybody that the audience will ask, I will ready to answer those questions. And about if they wanted to comparative religion, about the Christianity, about the Buddhist, about the Judaism, I will also explain as whatever I understand. And if sometime I will also bring some other guests with me, which they can also tell the more things about the Islam. But that is my aim and goal is just to inform about the what is the Islam and what is about that.
Hi, my name is Doug Norton, and I want to invite you to join me for a discussion of the history of air racing. That's right, this fall, we'll explore the world of fly low, turn left, go fast. Who am I? Well, I'm a 20-year veteran of attending the air races in Reno, Nevada. I served in both the Air Force and in NASA. I'm a private pilot, but not a race pilot. I come to the history of air racing as a fan, not as a history professor, and I'd just like to share some of the excitement with you. Now, no one really knows when the first air race actually took place. Most likely, it was the first time two pilots found themselves at the same airfield. But in this course, we'll go back to the origin of formal air racing, way back to 1909 in France. It was the world of Louis Blériot, Glenn Hammond Curtis, and a time when enthusiasm for this newfangled airplane thing was all the rage. Racing took hold in the public mind before the First World War, and soon races were being held all over the continent. By January 1910, the US was in the game as well. After the World War, the golden age of air racing served up races of all sorts, from pylon races to transcontinental speed dashes to intercontinental and even around the world runs. Alongside the race planes, some of the most iconic aviators in history emerged from the pack. People like Jimmy Doolittle, Wiley Post, and Jackie Cochran. It was a time of both excitement and rapid technological progress. It was also a time of increasing geopolitical tension, and progress in the racing circuits often contributed to the development of technology, especially engines, that would be crucial to victory during the coming war. After the war, surplus warbirds and new jets joined the racing circuits, increasing speeds and introducing new personalities and new classes of competition. Regrettably, an accident at Cleveland in 1949, along with the onset of the Korean War the following year, paused racing for 15 years. The fourth phase of our story begins with the resuscitation of the air races at Reno, Nevada in 1964 under the leadership of Bill Stead. The format for racing he established would survive until 2023, when the air races departed Reno for Roswell, New Mexico. This phase, most familiar with people today, would generate its own personalities. It would push the technology of warbirds to unanticipated heights and see the development of wholly new technologies of aircraft design. Pilots like Bob Hoover, John Sharp, and Steve Hinton would take the stage as the famous phrase, "Gentlemen, you have a race," reverberated across Stead Field. This era would see racers increasing Glenn Hammond Curtis's winning speed in 1909 by tenfold to more than 500 miles an hour. So this will be our story. Over 4 weeks, we'll trace the history of air racing from 1909 to 2023. The story's about technology and speed, of course, but also about the personalities that made these events special. So we'll cover all three. If you're interested in the history of aviation or want to learn more about those magnificent men and women in their flying machines, then this is the course for you. This is our plan. I hope you'll join me as we explore the history of air racing. Fly low, turn left, go fast.
Caesar tried two abortive missions into Great Britain from the French Celtic areas, and that was in 55 and 54 BC. There wasn't much after that until Claudius, to give his own rule a little more legitimacy, wanted a military victory, and so Claudius sent 40,000 Roman troops into Britain and began a 300 and some year occupation of Great Britain. Until recently, that is the last 50 years, up until the last 50 years, British scholarship viewed the occupation as an uplifting and a civilization of the Celtic tribes. Nowadays, after World War II and the British retrocession of its own empire, and in view of modern views of modern military occupations, the ideas have changed. The military occupation of Britain by Rome is now considered to be a bad thing. Almost everybody was under a very strict military, colonialist, imperialist occupations, and only a few of the highly elite members and rulers of some of the Celtic tribes benefited from it. The Romans never did take all of Great Britain. They got up to a line, built a wall across Great Britain, and said, "That's it. We were in occupation." They eventually had to retire from Great Britain because of serious problems along the Rhine River with the Germanic tribes, and they had to withdraw their legions from Great Britain to the mainland. We will look at the anthropology of Great Britain. We will look at the Roman period, and we will look shortly at the end of the Roman period and what followed thereafter. And that is the extent of the course. Pre-Rome, Roman Britain, and then a little bit of post-Roman Britain. That's it.
I'm Tom Mantufel, and the class I'm teaching this quarter is called Classical Greece. No matter what fields you discuss, the ancient Greeks always seem to have been there first. To us in the Western world, our creation story is that of Athens in the 5th century BCE. To us, just as much as to those Athenians, our literature begins with Homer's epics. The Greek ideal is carried across the world by Alexander, who worshipped his copy of Homer, although no Athenian would ever consider him Greek. But what makes the Greeks so universal and so central to our art and architecture, science, philosophy, theater, literature, history, lyric poetry, science? Why then and why there? We'll look into the Greeks bearing us cultural gifts and examine how and how much they really shaped our Western civilization. There's much in this story that I found surprising, and you may as well. We'll start with a lead-up, including the Bronze Age Mycenaeans, whom Homer eloquently describes, although their culture had long since disappeared when Homer sang of them. The Archaic period is the beginning of greatness, I think, and often overlooked. The Classical era, bookended by 2 wars through which Athens reaches its zenith. And finally, the Hellenistic, in which science and art together flourish. So if all of that sounds of interest, join us online Tuesdays for 4 sessions. Classical Greece.
Hello, my name is Bill Fogarty, and I'm here to talk about my class this fall, which will be a survey of Arlington history from 1900 to 1930. I have written some articles for the Arlington Historical Society magazine and taught some encore classes on a number of Arlington topics. I've also been fortunate to have been asked recently to write a weekly column, Our Man in Arlington, for the Falls Church News Press. All of which means I've been immersed in Arlington history. I thought it would be fun to look at some specific time periods beginning with the early 20th century. I will cover the big picture matters involving local politics, and I will describe the growth of the county from a 1900 farming community to the beginnings of suburban life in 1930. But I will also be providing a glimpse as to what it was like to live day by day in Arlington in those early days. There are some terrific resources in the Charlie Clark Center for Local History that I will be sharing, including articles and interviews with people who lived in Arlington in the early 20th century. For example, the wife of a doctor who started his practice around 1900, she wrote that his practice mainly consisted of house calls and that he traveled by horse and buggy to visit his patients. And when the roads were muddy, he just went on horseback. Then there was the teacher at Kemper Elementary School, the school for black children in segregated Arlington. This teacher lived in D.C., and every morning he would walk across the Aqueduct Bridge from Georgetown into Arlington, and many school children would come out of their houses and walk with him as he made his way to the school in Green Valley. One woman in an interview recounted a dramatic story about an emergency appendectomy she needed as a young girl in Clarendon in 1913. Another person shared his memory of watching the Ku Klux Klan march past him in Arlington in the 1920s. Now by 1930, of course, transportation had changed. We had automobiles and some paved roads and even new bridges, with Key Bridge built in 1923 to replace the Aqueduct Bridge. Many houses had telephones by then, and there was even an airport in Arlington. 1930 also brought us a controversial new governing structure that is still with us today. Much of this early history has shaped the Arlington of today. I am looking forward to sharing some of that history and engaging with you all as we embark on a journey of discovery about the many stories that are a part of our Arlington history. And in closing, I want to thank all the wonderful volunteers at Encore Learning for their work in creating such a terrific experience for all of us. They are amazing. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you.
I'm Steve Ruth, and I want to tell you about a fun and surprising course my colleague Fred Day and I are going to be giving for Encore Learning. It could be called Great Stories in Sports, the Famous, the Funny, and the Forgotten. Now, don't worry, this is not just a course for diehard sports fans. If you enjoy a great story about triumph, heartbreak, wild underdogs coming through, any of that, this is for you. We'll cover big time sports, of course, football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey, and all the rest, and also our local teams for sure. But we'll also dive into some unexpected ones like ultimate frisbee, field hockey, cricket, even mashed potato wrestling. You'll hear sound clips, you'll see short videos, and relive some of the greatest moments in sports. We have a ton of clips together. Fred and I have worked together. We've done this a few times now, and we really enjoy working with each other. You'll see unforgettable Olympic moments, and also like the final out in the 2019. Remember the Nats won the World Series in 2019, and they were even a wild card team. And so we'll see things like that, but also great gymnasts like Mary Lou Retton and Simone Biles. Fred Day is a lawyer and author of 6 terrific books about sports and the law, and he is an encyclopedia of sports. He's a wonderful guy. You're going to really enjoy him. And you know me, I've done about 24 courses for Encore Learning, but I've never done one on this subject. And my qualification is that I was second string catcher on my baseball team in high school, New Trier High School, Winnetka, Illinois, and I've been a sports nut ever since. Not a good catcher, but a very extensive sports nut. Most of all, we want you to be part of the fun. We'll be encouraging everyone to share their own sports stories, whether you played or watched, coached, or just screamed at the TV when the ref got the wrong call. We promise it'll be lively, unpredictable, and full of home runs for you, even if you never swung a bat in your life. We look forward to seeing you at Sports Talk.
Hi, my name is Tyler Anbinder, and I'll be teaching a course this term called Reconstruction, America's Unfinished Revolution. I spent 30 years teaching American history at George Washington University, and before that, the University of Wyoming, before beginning my teaching with Encore Learning. A year ago, I taught a course on the political crisis of the 1850s that led to the Civil War. Last term, I taught a course on the Civil War itself. And this term, I'll be teaching a course on Reconstruction, the name we give to the period after the Civil War, in which Americans tried to put the country back together. There were 2 big issues that politicians and Americans generally had to face after the Civil War. And those were what should be the rights of the newly freed slaves and what should be the rights of the Confederates who had fought to destroy the nation. We'll talk about the response Americans had to these questions during the late 1860s and early 1870s, both on the national level in Washington and on the local level in the states where these questions played out. We'll see that over the course of the decade from 1865 to 1875, Northerners at first enthusiastically tried to bring rights to the newly freed slaves, and at the same time tried to punish the leaders of the Confederacy. But as that decade wore on, and Southerners resisted more vehemently granting rights to the freed slaves, Northerners, we'll see, came to accept that granting full citizenship rights to the former slaves might prevent a full reconciliation between white Northerners and white Southerners.
Hello, I'm Eric Garland. This semester, I will be teaching a class on Iranian history. Although Iran is one of the largest, most populous, and most important countries in the Middle East, most Americans know very little about its long and rich history, stretching all the way back to the original Persian Empire founded by Cyrus the Great. In this class, we will be exploring that lengthy and fascinating history, along with Iranian culture and identity, centered most notably around its world-class literature and poets, ranging from Hafez to Rumi. We will examine how Iranian empires rose and fell repeatedly for centuries before Iran was marginalized at the onset of the modern era, and how Iran's struggle to reassert itself has dominated its politics for the past 150 years. From the rise of Reza Shah to the downfall of his son Mohammad Reza at the hands of Ayatollah Khomeini, Iran is a nation struggling to find its very soul in the turbulent waters of a new age. This struggle continues into the 21st century, which began with high hopes for regional dominance, only to see those hopes dramatically shattered in recent years and even in recent months. America's role in Iran's history will be highlighted, even though that role began relatively late in Iran's long story. Despite this, America has played an outsized part in Iran's modern history, although the two countries do not even have official ties. Thank you, and I hope to see you in the fall as we explore this most fascinating and turbulent of countries.
Hello, I'm Lillian Brooks, and I will be teaching a fall course called The History of Women's Rights in the United States. My background is that I am an attorney. I also am an adjunct instructor at George Mason University in the criminology department. I taught this class for the OLLI program at GMU last year. It turned out to be a very popular class, and I'm really looking forward to teaching it for Encore. The way this course is set up, it's in a timeline. So I will be starting from colonial period all the way through modern day times now. I will start the class with some discussion on rights and what they mean and how the courts have interpreted it, so that we're all on the same page when we're talking about women's rights. Then I will present some laws and some famous women who have had either a direct or indirect influence in reforming women's rights in this country. I'll also talk about events. Events were very important in influencing women's rights and what the result of those events are and still remain to be. And then lastly, I will discuss where we are today and focus on reproductive rights of women. My caveat is that I am biased, and some of it might be more of a pro-choice slant. So I welcome discussion and comments from people in particular who may disagree with that viewpoint. So hopefully in this class, there'll be some room for discussion and comments, and I look forward to doing it. So I'll see you all in October, and have a great summer.
Let's go ahead and start this next section with do you have a slide for the lobbying and insider's view? Unfortunately, we couldn't get a video for this class, but I'm happy to tell you a bit about it. The class is going to be taught by David Rayer, who is a professor at GMU's Schar School and also the director of their Center for Business Civil Engagement. And it's going to be pretty interesting, I think, for those of you who wonder about lobbying. We've heard a lot about it. This class will provide an understanding of interest groups, historical and legal background, lobbying tools, and the political process at all levels. You will learn about practical skills and insights that are necessary to understand government advocacy. And you'll also learn how citizens exercise their First Amendment right to petition their government and to seek redress, and how citizens can lobby effectively on behalf of a cause. Guest speakers may share their perspectives on special influence lobbying and how lobbying impacts the creation of laws. The class will definitely take the mystery out of lobbying. And now let's continue with impact investing. Okay, we finished that, and let's go on.
I am Michael Richardson with Third Act in upstate New York. I am the instructor for this course on investing for social impact. For many of us, moving our investments away from businesses that do not align with our values is not the end goal. It is not simply about having our money going from doing harm to doing no harm. We want our investments to finance businesses and projects that are doing good, such as clean energy, community development, sustainable agriculture, and supporting small businesses and underfinanced communities. This course on investing for social impact will explore the core principles of impact investing as a strategy to generate positive, measurable social and environmental impact. This will be an interactive class with plenty of opportunities for discussion. Participants will learn about the opportunities and the challenges of impact investing. Participants will also be introduced to practical tools and other resources to assess these opportunities. In this course, we will learn how impact investing differs from ESG and socially responsible investing. While all of these investment strategies use values-based criteria to exclude certain companies involved in harmful activities, impact investing goes further by actively seeking investments that create positive social or environmental change. Our guest presenters will discuss crafting and implementing a sound financial plan to provide the roadmap and context for financial decisions. We will look at values-based portfolios consisting of active shareholder companies to create positive change, and we will go into public-private investment opportunities that invest in businesses in low-income communities. I am looking forward to meeting you and exploring how we together can align our money with our values.
Hey everyone, I'm Bob Sutter. I'll be teaching this course and looking forward to that very much. I just thought for a few minutes I could tell you what the purpose and the scope of the course is, so you have some understanding. The purpose is to understand the Chinese challenges to the United States and America's response. U.S.-China relations has a long history. A lot of things can be involved in this kind of a course, but I'm going to break it down into 4 sections. The first one will look at the origins and evolutions of the Chinese challenges and the U.S. responses, and that will go through up to the present. This issue has become very hard. U.S. relations have become very hard over the last 8 years, but that hasn't always been the case, and we'll try to explain why that's happening now. And then there are basically, I'll introduce basically three areas of challenge that are very important. And one of them is the challenge for leadership in Asia. And so the second session will deal with that, looking at the competition between these two countries for influence in Asia and why it's so important for both of them in this regard. The third section will look at two other areas of the three that are most important in these challenges, and one is economics, and the other is governance. And in these two areas, we'll explain why these challenges are taking place. These are more hidden. The Asia one it gets a lot of publicity, but these other ones not so much. And I want to explain that because the economic one is fundamental, and if that doesn't go well for America, they're in real trouble in dealing with China. So that's the first three meetings. And then the last meeting will focus on Taiwan. And that's because this is the flashpoint. This is the place where opinion says if there's going to be a military fight between the United States and China, it's going to happen here. So we need to go into that in a little more depth to do this sort of thing. Just to say a little bit about me, I've been involved with continuing education in Northern Virginia for 50 years, also in Maryland and Washington. And so I worked in the government, had a 33-year career in the government, working 2/3 for Congress, 1/3 for the U.S. intelligence community. I taught throughout that period, and I still teach today. I teach full-time at GW right now. And I like it very much. And so, but on continuing ed, I like that very much. And I like to work with adults to raise issues and have a discussion, hear opinions, and then move on to the next element. It deepens everybody's understanding. And so that's what I try to do.
Hello there. My name is Geerten Michielsen, and I'll be teaching tax reforms around the world this semester. I'm a Dutch national living in Arlington, and I recently retired from the International Monetary Fund. As a legal drafter and tax policy designer, I worked in Eastern Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. Before joining the IMF, I was a tax law professor in the Netherlands. Most tax courses focus on how to file your tax return and how to avoid paying taxes. But in this course, we'll explore tax systems in a different way, as a government tool to fund public goods like education, healthcare, and infrastructure. During the first two classes, we'll discuss the various tools governments have to collect taxes from consumption and employment to business activities and property. Sometimes it's not clear who actually pays the tax. For instance, some argue that tariffs are paid by domestic consumers or businesses, while others say that foreigners pay. This is called the tax incident. Tax instruments also raise many questions. Can the tax system effectively distribute income? Can a tax on consumption reduce sugar consumption and obesity? Would it be possible to discourage immigration by imposing a remittance tax? If the answer is yes, we need to ask ourselves how effective such instruments are. By using economic tools, we'll try to find evidence from the past and guide the future. The classes will continue with some practical examples. Any country may need to raise additional revenue at certain times due to unexpected events. First, we'll look at reforms in countries that transitioned from centralized planning to market-driven economies. Starting with the socialist legacy, we'll identify the objectives, strategy, and sequencing of the tax reform. Next, we'll examine the reforms needed to address a banking crisis in Iceland and a sovereign debt crisis in Greece and Cyprus. We'll discuss the challenges, the preferred tax instruments, and their effectiveness. Finally, we'll talk about tax reforms in countries like Afghanistan and Yemen, which are going through very tough times. How can we use taxes to help these countries rebuild and get people to trust their government again. I hope I triggered your curiosity, and I'm looking forward to see you in my classes.
Welcome, everyone. I'm absolutely delighted to have the opportunity once again to meet with Encore Learning. And I should tell you, I'm Mark Rozelle. I am Dean of the Schar School of Policy and Government at George Mason University, celebrating 21 years now at George Mason University. I'm a political scientist by training, and I have written, commented about, studied Virginia politics for many years. And we have, of course, our statewide elections happening this year, only Virginia and New Jersey. So much of the national spotlight is going to be on the Virginia elections. And much of that spotlight will be suggesting, wondering whether what is happening in Virginia is in any way reflective of the overall national political context. But we're really going to talk in this course about what is happening here in Virginia specifically, what issues to be looking at in this campaign, the strategies of the candidates, but also taking a broader look at how this election fits into the context of past history of Virginia elections. So colleague John Milliken and I did a book on what we called the transformative elections in Virginia of the 20th century. So we can ask the question whether this will be a similar such election that signals a significant long-term change in the partisan makeup and policy agenda that takes place in Virginia going forward. Much of that will be speculative, of course, but we have history to draw on. For this course, I think it's very exciting that I am going to be joined by some very significant figures in Virginia politics, of course. There will be former Governor Terry McAuliffe, who will lead one of the sessions, and former two-term Lieutenant Governor Bill Bolling, who is also in the Schar School teaching for us. He will be leading one of the sessions. And our colleague as well, David Ramadan, who is a former member of the Virginia House of Delegates. So there will be 4 sessions. I will lead one of them, and each of my colleagues who comes from a very significant background in state politics will be leading each of the other 3 sessions. So I very much look forward to seeing you here in this program, and I very much hope that you enjoy this unique opportunity to have a program such as this one with some major past policymakers in Virginia. So thank you for your attention, and I will see you soon.
Hi, my name's Rich Goslerich, and I'll be co-leading the course 4083 Geopolitical Turbulence in a Transactional Age, Russia, Ukraine, and the New Near Abroad. I'm a distinguished visiting professor here at the Schar School of Policy and Government at George Mason University. I teach graduate courses and serve as co-director of the Center for Energy Science and Policy. I worked 40 years as a Foreign Service officer and senior intelligence officer, and among other diplomatic assignments in Africa and Israel, I was U.S. ambassador in Azerbaijan and Bosnia and Herzegovina, as well as Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for European Affairs. And at the National Intelligence Council, I was National Intelligence Officer for Europe. Retired Ambassador William Taylor will be joining me. Ambassador Taylor's direct experience in Ukraine is vital. He served as the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine from 2006 to 2009, and as chargé d'affaires in the U.S. Embassy in Kiev from 2019 to 2020. And outside of his assignments in Ukraine, he oversaw U.S. aid and reconstruction efforts in Afghanistan, Iraq, and other former Soviet Union countries. He's a distinguished fellow at the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center. Ambassador Taylor and I invite you to explore how America's engagement with the world has undergone a profound transformation. We will share personal anecdotes and observations from our diplomatic careers, bringing the material to life. And we designed this course to be interactive. We want to encourage your own experiences and perspectives to deepen your understanding and add to the course. For decades, U.S. foreign policy has been grounded in Wilsonian ideals. It's promoted a cooperative, rules-based, liberal international order supported by institutions such as the UN, NATO, the IMF, and the World Bank. And this old paradigm influenced our strategy for containment during the Cold War and its immediate aftermath. But a new approach has surfaced, transactionalism. This emphasizes immediate national and economic gains, concentrating on bilateral deals while doubting multilateral institutions. And this is a view linked to the America First stance that has undermined confidence in the post-war liberal order. So the course will examine the current geopolitical landscape, focusing on Russia, Ukraine, and the ripple effects throughout the new near abroad, which includes Eastern Europe, the Balkans, and the Caucasus. How has transactionalism shaped U.S. policy toward Russia and Ukraine? And finally, we're going to look ahead. What are the long-term effects of sustained transactional U.S. foreign policy? Can we preserve parts of the rules-based order? And what alternative approaches could U.S. foreign policy take to manage relations with a revanchist Russia and promote stability in the region? So I look forward to seeing you in the fall. Thank you.
We're now taking a short break from the videos, and Jean and Deb are going to join me for just some time for reminders. But our break is going to go until 10:58. We'll have a 10-minute break, and then we'll recommence the videos. We've covered 4 categories, and we have 3 more to go. Jean and Deb, any comments you have about what you've seen? What are you excited about?
Well, I'm excited about a lot of the courses, starting with Steve Pillar's improv course, which I plan to sign up for. I think, it's a very different kind of course for Encore Learning, but I'm so glad that Steve approached us and offered to teach it. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And trust me, I'm not a person who yearns to be on the stage, but I just think that it's just going to be a fun course, something different. And I'm also excited, of course, about the Election 2025 course. Did I say that right? Yeah, Virginia Election 2025. I'm actually going to be a class aide in that course. We're going to have great speakers, and I should note that is going to run for 4 weeks just prior to the election. So we'll be getting a very good perspective on what to expect, what the history is leading into this election. And so, how about you, Deb? Which courses are you excited about?
Well, those 2 for sure. And as the videos are going, I keep looking at the schedule, wondering, can I take that? Wait, I want to take that too. But what about this one? And luckily, several of the ones that I'm interested in are being recorded. So even though I have a lot of upcoming travel, I know that I can catch up and watch the recordings. And then when I'm back in town, I can pick up in a more current situation with the format of Zoom or hybrid. I also noticed how many classes we have that are hybrid, which gives all of our participants such a great option. I've noticed that when you talk to people who take classes, it's kind of like one of those expressions, there are 2 kinds of people in the world. The ones who really want only Zoom, and say, this is it for me. It's so convenient. And other people who say, no, I only want to be there in person. So now we have the hybrid option, which gives everybody a chance to participate in the way they feel most comfortable.
That's true. And I've taken a few of those recorded courses. So, my schedule wouldn't allow me to take it during the spring term, but the recordings were available. I could sign up for the course and kind of take the course, if you will, over the summer. It's not the same as taking it live, but you can certainly glean a lot of information just from watching what happened in the classroom. So that's a great feature that we've added in the last couple of years. So keep that in mind.
15 courses that are recorded. And when you look at the online catalog, you can see them by just selecting recorded courses. So it's a great listing. It allows you to if you have classes that overlap, maybe one of them's recorded and you can actually sign up for both of them.
Right, and it also helps to take a look carefully at the calendar, because even though the times may look the same, we've tried to balance it so that the dates of the class are not the same. So you could take a Friday morning class and after that ends, take another Friday morning class that starts the next Friday. So we've tried to build in a lot of flexibility because we have so many wonderful classes and people don't want to miss them. Hopefully this semester will even be better for the recordings and the way we've set the timing up. And there's a new system for class web pages, Laura, you might want to mention that is going to be helpful.
Yeah, so we have we started this last year, but it still may be new to some of you. Every class has its own web page, and when you get a reminder for your class a couple days before the class starts, you'll get a link for this course web page. And what you see here is an example on the screen is an example of a course web page for a course from the spring semester. It has the course details, including the days, the times, the location, what room it's in, if it's a Zoom class, what the login information is, the login and the password. So you don't have to email us and ask us, where is that Zoom link? It's always on the course web page. And then any of the course materials, if the instructor's provided a syllabus or suggested readings, or the slides from the class, they'll be shared on this course web page. And then as well, if the class is recorded, you'll get an email saying the recording is available and the recording is found on this web page. So you can go back and find the link for the recording at any time during the semester. For the fall semester, recordings will be available until the end of February. So you have time to watch it even past the time of the semester. But these web pages are just fantastic. People have really appreciated it. And they stay up in perpetuity for, as long as we have this website up and running. You'll have access to this information.
And a lot of our instructors are really taking advantage of this by posting a syllabus, posting additional information, so that if there's so much going on, they want people to be able to read background information. So I think it's really going to be very, very helpful to all of us.
And then I found I've used it a lot since we've introduced this system. It's great.
And then, as Jean was mentioning, some of the classes will be available again later for people who didn't take them at all. Isn't that right, Laura? For summertime recording the sessions.
Yeah, for spring semester, those recordings are available to watch in the summer.
Yeah. Oh, for the spring. Okay.
Right.
And then the fall courses are available after the semester wraps up. So we have January and February basically to take some of those fall term courses that were recorded that we perhaps couldn't fit into our schedules in the fall. So
we call that your winter break. Yeah,
January semester or something like that.
Right. You can watch them when you're hopefully maybe traveling.
Yeah.
I did have a question. Somebody asked if I could turn up the volume on the presentations, and I encourage you, if you're having a difficult time with the volume, is to make sure your live transcript is showing. And you can go to closed captions or live transcript and enable that on your screen if you're having an issue. So please, you're welcome to do that.
And as long as we have time, I'll just also mention how we are always looking for new instructors. And you can always see that the enthusiasm of our instructors, because they love teaching adults. A lot of the people you've heard from and who teach for us regularly are retired academics, and they often comment how much fun it is to be able to teach adults who aren't thinking about their social lives or getting out and enjoying a beautiful day. Instead, they're in there because they want to learn and they want to participate. So we think being an instructor is great for both the instructor and the class. And if anyone is interested, you can also tell you don't have to have a background, a career in something if you have a love and a passion for a subject. So please think about it and let us know at info@encorelearning.net.
And we also welcome anyone who is interested in joining the committee, the Academic Programs Committee, or any of our other Encore Learning committees. It's a great way to get involved as a volunteer in Encore Learning. We're very much a volunteer organization. Our instructors are all volunteers. Our committee members are all volunteers. At the beginning of this morning's session, Marilyn thanked all of the members of the Academic Programs Committee. I just wanted to mention that we have one person who's going to be joining us in the fall. Keith Klein is going to be a new member of the Academic Programs Committee. And next month, Deb and Susan are going to convene our kickoff meeting so we can start planning around a lineup of courses for the spring 2026 term.
Right. It's hard to keep it straight sometimes when you're on the committee, which semester we're talking about, because we have to wrap up our plans for the spring by mid-November. So we'll be thinking much in the future. In the meantime, trying to take as many classes in the fall as possible.
Exactly. I think we're ready to start rolling again with our next category. So our next category, of course, is one of my all-time favorites, literature and writing. So let's hear what all these instructors have to say.
Hello, everyone. Saludos a todos. I'm Danny Hike, and I will be offering a new 6-week course this fall entitled Footprints of the Indigenous Past, Huellas del Pasado Indígena in Latin American Literature. This will be an in-person discussion class conducted in Spanish. Class members will familiarize themselves with brief texts before class, for which I will provide several questions to guide our conversation. If you love learning and sharing with others, even in rusty, imperfect Spanish, then join me on a fascinating journey of discovery. We will discern continuing footprints leading us toward an integrated worldview that regards humankind as part of, not separate from, the natural world. We will explore the concept of connectedness. It will be our touchstone. Early on, we will see how it underlies Aztec and Mayan poetry. Later, we will see how Pablo Neruda ennobles an organic connectedness in his inspiring Amor America and Amazonas, bringing to life the mighty river and its centrality to indigenous spirituality. There are, however, as we know, many powerful modern challenges to a unified vision. We will see the thread of connectedness frayed and corrupted by consumerism, as in Carlos Fuentes' satirical story, Chacmul, or sundered altogether by vast extractive pursuits. Even so, footprints stubbornly beckon us toward an environmentally and spiritually connected world. As we shall see, influential voices, such as that of the late Pope Francis in his Querida Amazonia, reaffirm the vital link between the human and natural worlds, our common home. At the local level, Amazonian poets and indigenous women leaders today still act as guardians of the forest, defending holistic practices that have served their communities for centuries, thus bringing full circle the central concept of our journey, the enduring persistence of the indigenous past, whose footprints we will have traced and trod. This will be quite an adventure. Vamos juntos. Hasta luego. Gracias. Y que les vaya bien a todos. Ciao.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rosemary Jan. I'm a professor emeritus from the English department at George Mason University. And this fall, I'll be teaching my 5th course for Encore Learning. This time, I'm pairing Mark Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn with a contemporary novel that is explicitly in conversation with it, James by Percival Everett, which was recently awarded this year's Pulitzer Prize for Fiction. Twain's novel follows a teenage outcast as he narrates his adventures rafting down the Mississippi River to escape abuse and danger, accompanied by Jim, an enslaved man running for his freedom. After its 1884 publication, the novel quickly established itself as a landmark in American fiction for its use of vernacular speech and for its implicit commentary on the failings of antebellum society. But just as quickly, in the 20th century, it went on to inspire controversy for its portrayal of race relations and its casual use of racial slurs. Percival Everett intends James as both a tribute and a subversive response to Twain's classic. Everett thoroughly flips the script on Twain, having Jim, rather than Huck, narrate the story, and imagining a very different reality underlying slavery and the relationship between the two travelers. I think that Everett's novel will make you laugh, but it will also make you think more deeply about the ways in which we understand and portray America's racial history. Both writers employ cutting ironic humor to investigate their subjects, but both are also motivated by a compassionate sympathy for the human costs and contradictions of that history. In the first half of the course, we'll focus on Huck Finn as well as on the controversies that it has inspired. In the second half, we'll analyze Everett's wildly imaginative transformation of Jim's experiences. Although I will occasionally give some short lectures to fill in background and context, this course will primarily be based on class discussion of your reading assignments for each week. I hope you'll join me as we share our views on the dialogue between these two masters of fiction and consider the issues they raise. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jenny Sullivan. I've taught literature at Encore Learning for a number of years, and I love it. This semester, the subject is Southern Short Stories. William Faulkner said, "The past is never dead. In fact, it's not even past." Southern literature indeed lives under the weight of the history of the region, but the troubling history has produced a great body of literature that is respected and enjoyed and remains popular today. Southern writers, no matter the background, seem to need to tell their stories. The South has always been a storytelling culture, perhaps more than other sections of the country. The ever-quotable Faulkner has also claimed that people in the South have no time for reading because they're all too busy writing. Storytelling is inherent in both the white European Southern culture, of which we have many representatives in 19th and 20th century literature, and it's inherent in the culture of the Black Southerner, by virtue first of the African oral tradition that persisted through times of slavery and evolved into such post-Civil War writings as those of Charles Chesnutt, the son of free blacks. And it continues in our contemporary generation of African American Southern writers. In this course, we will look at 6 Southern writers whose works cover a time frame from 1880 to 1973. In all of the stories, the past must reckon with the culture of the present, and that reckoning is a significant undercurrent in every story that we will read. Disparate roots, but shared history. Bondedness, yet division, play out in all the stories we will study. The stories are Joel Chandler Harris's Wonderful Tar Baby, a much more interesting story than the casual observer might be aware. George Washington Cable's Belle Demoiselle Plantation, about Creole culture in New Orleans. We will look at William Faulkner's Barn Burning, Peter Taylor's Two Ladies in Retirement, Flannery O'Connor's Everything That Rises Must Converge, which was written in the height of the Civil Rights Movement. And we will close with Alice Walker's Everyday Use, about a class of culture within the Black community. These are wonderful stories. They're sometimes pretty rough, sometimes tender, sometimes funny, often all of the above. They are readable stories, which will all be posted online for you. I will give you an introduction the first week, and we will start the reading the second week. I hope you will sign up and enjoy these stories with me.
Hi, I'm Margaret, and I'm excited to offer this first-time offering of writing from prompts in community. We will be doing some timed writings and some short ones, and then a little bit longer. We will then share our I'll invite you to share your writing. We'll be listening for what are the strengths of each other's writing and what worked. It's not a craft class. We're not critiquing. This is to encourage us to write and to enjoy writing and get a feel for the joy of this art. The class will be no more than 10, and even smaller is a little better, because then we could have more writing sessions and share more. I have enjoyed doing this kind of thing over the years. I have a background in writing, but there is no public affairs, and I've audited classes in the MFA program at George Mason University and done Writer Center type of things, essays, poems, etc. But the premise of this class is we're all writers. There is no experience required. Everybody was born able to do this art form. So I look forward to meeting many of you, and I know myself, I've just enjoyed what can happen when we're in a group and we do extended writing, and we don't know what's going to happen. Maybe you're working on a project, but maybe you just want to see what shows up on the page. So till the fall, thank you.
Hello, my name is Michael Collins, and I'll be teaching a course on Shakespeare's Hamlet in the fall for Encore Learning. Hamlet is one of Shakespeare's best-known plays, and for many, it's his greatest play as well. The characters in the play, Hamlet, Ophelia, Polonius, for example, and many of its lines, to be or not to be, this above all, to thine own self be true, alas, poor Yorick. These lines and characters are known to people who have never read the play or even seen it performed on the stage. Shakespeare's Hamlet is one of the icons of our culture, and yet, as we look closely at it, it may seem at times complicated, ambiguous, resistant to interpretation. One complication is that Hamlet raises questions to which it gives no answers. Why, for example, does Hamlet speak of the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, when he has just seen a ghost of his father. The play leaves it to readers, actors, and directors to answer the questions that it raises. It does not answer them itself. A second complication is that we have three versions of Hamlet, one published in 1603, another in 1604, and a third in 1623. Most scholars think the first version was created by actors, remembering the lines of the play, and they do not think Shakespeare was involved directly in its publication. The second and third versions, however, are thought to have been written by Shakespeare, but the problem is their relationship to one another is not at all clear. There's the second complication. One last complication is the nature of Hamlet's relationship to other characters in the play, to the four young men who are his friends, and particularly to the two women at court, Gertrude and Ophelia. The class then will focus on these and other complications in order to explore the mind-boggling complexity of the play and to answer one significant question. While the play is engaging in performance, what relevance might it have to our own lives when it fails to make clear its meaning? As I've tried to suggest, we shall not discuss the scenes of the play sequentially, and we shall probably not look at every scene in the play. It would help, therefore, if you decide to take the course, to read the play in its entirety before the first class, or at least watch one of the many film versions of it. In the process of discussing the play together in the class, I think what we'll discover is that there is no Hamlet, only Hamlets, and each of us, as we read, constructs our own.
Buying and selling, three salesman plays. Salesmen have become iconic figures in American culture, whether as the butt of jokes. You remember the one about the traveling salesman and the farmer's daughter, and as protagonists in fiction, film, and drama, creating need and fulfilling desire. Whether Eugene O'Neill's Hickey, Arthur Miller's Willy Loman, or the David Mamet's cohort of desperate real estate purveyors, these men, and they are usually men, peddle, persuade, hawk. However, what do they sell exactly? Goods, certainly, although we don't always know what's on offer. Surely promises, possibly dreams. It may even be themselves. For 6 weeks, from the end of October to mid-December, we will explore the commerce in objects, individuals, and symbols, as they are represented in 3 plays: The Iceman Cometh, Death of a Salesman, and Glengarry Glen Ross. In that order, please, as they might help us understand the values of the world we live in. During that time, we may also, I hope, view scenes from the plays themselves. And by the way, all of these plays are available for viewing. So if you can, and if you want, please try to see them before we begin.
Hi, everyone. How about sharing some more short stories with me this fall? The course is International Women Writers and the Modern Short Story. Yeah, we finally reached the end of the 20th century, the 1980s and 90s, our own era. So, no lectures about historical context this time. Instead, we'll turn to the global literary context. I found an excellent anthology of late 20th century writers from around the world called The Art of the Story, edited by poet Daniel Halpern in paperback. Along with some American women writers like Julia Alvarez and Ann Beattie, it offers us international authors, familiar names like Margaret Atwood from exotic Canada, and less well-known authors, at least to me, like Hanan al-Sheikh of Lebanon and Tautania Tolstoya from Russia. Yes, Tolstoy's great-grandniece. Then there's Zhan Shui from China, whose challenging experimental prose blends ancient folktales and modern magical realism. We'll focus just on women authors in the collection, 18 of them, in fact, for our 6 weeks together, 3 stories each week, about 25 to 30 pages. I'll bring my slide lectures, and I'll provide handouts in the course folder online. But the key element is you. The course is designed as a virtual reading circle. It relies on your contributions in the chat discussion during class, and as well comments and questions in the lecture breaks. Come join our Friday morning reading circle to talk about how fiction can cross boundaries of place and culture, or maybe not, this fall. Meanwhile, go ahead, get a copy of The Art of the Story. It's good fall reading, and I'll hope to see you in October on Zoom. Thanks.
Okay, that took my breath away with the array of fantastic literature classes. I think they're going to be wonderful. Now we're ready to start our last 2 sections of the preview, Science and Technology and Social Sciences. So take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Summers, and I'm a planetary scientist. That means I study planets, how they form, how they evolve over time, and occasionally how planets die. In my current research, I focus on what makes planets habitable, that is, habitable for life as we understand life on Earth. A discovery of life elsewhere in the universe could potentially be the most significant discovery in the history of science. Such a discovery could drastically change how we view ourselves and our place in the cosmos. And we are living at a very special time in human history. We now have the scientific tools to actually discover whether or not life does exist in other worlds. As of now, astronomers have discovered over 7,500 planets around other stars. We call these planets exoplanets. And we're discovering these exoplanets, whole new worlds, at an average rate of 2 to 3 per day. We've also discovered that the essential ingredients for life that we, as we understand it on Earth, are commonplace in the universe. That is, liquid water, essential raw materials, including the element carbon, and usable energy are all commonplace throughout the galaxy. In this Encore course, I'm going to discuss the many diverse and sometimes exotic types of planets that we have discovered around other stars, and how many of these planets are similar to the Earth, but many are vastly different. Most importantly, recent discoveries suggest that the universe is filled with habitable Earth-like worlds. And I will show how it is now possible to detect life on some of these worlds, even hundreds of light years away. In this course, you're going to learn about these newly discovered worlds and the possibility that some of these may host life and perhaps even intelligent life. We will also discuss the consequences for humanity. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Mary Kay Davis. I'm a member of the Academic Program Committee. We're the group that puts together classes for Encore. Today I want to talk to you about one of them, and that is an introduction to fall birding. Now, fall is an interesting time to look for birds. As the weather cools, insects, fish, fruits and other food sources in North America diminish, and birds and their offspring head south to Central and South America, where they overwinter. To learn about local birds and those that migrate through our area, you can sign up for the Tuesday or Thursday sessions. Each one consists of 4 classes. The first lecture will be hosted by a naturalist at the Gulf Branch Nature Center who is fascinated by raptors, that is, hawks, owls, eagles, falcons, and vultures. Enjoy the enthusiasm of the instructor as she shows off her feathered friends. In the second class, a skilled naturalist at the Long Branch Nature Center will give you tips for spotting crows, local songbirds that do not migrate, like blue jays, cardinals, robins, and as well as songbirds that migrate through our area in the fall. In the third session, you get to put your learning into practice at Long Branch. Expert birders will guide you around the park as you learn the skill of using binoculars. They'll also introduce you to apps that will help you identify birds by sound and sight. Bring your own binoculars or borrow those from the guides. The fourth class is at 4 Mile Run, where experts will introduce you to the birds that frequent that diverse habitat. You'll also learn about organizations and groups that you can join to continue birding. Now, we've offered the birding class fall and spring several times, and they have been popular. Some students have taken both. The classes usually fill up. Some have suggested that one way to be sure to get in the class is to volunteer to be a class aide. I urge you to sign up for the class. It's fun. It's a chance to learn something, get some exercise, enjoy the parks and the company of your fellow participants. Happy birding!
Hello, my name is Paul Reinhardt, and I will be teaching a course on hearing science and audiology in the fall semester on Encore Learning. I am a hearing scientist by training and received my PhD in communication disorders from Northwestern University. I have done auditory research in university and government settings, as well as most recently, I've been working in the hearing technology industry, developing and researching new technologies, including hearing aids and cochlear implants for mitigating or treating hearing loss. This course will provide an overview of the science behind how our ears and brains make sense of vibrations in the air, otherwise known as sound. This is a complex and fascinating physiological process that inevitably changes throughout the aging process. In this course, we'll start with understanding how we hear. So the ear itself is divided into 3 subparts. The outer ear, which includes the pinna, which is essentially a fancy cartilaginous funnel to get sound into the ear canal. The middle ear, which includes the tympanic membrane or eardrum, as well as the 3 ossicles, which are the smallest bones in the human body. And then the inner ear, which includes the cochlea, where vibrations are turned into electrophysiological signals, which are sent up along the auditory pathway throughout the brainstem and into the primary auditory cortex, where our brains are able to make sense of sound. Once we understand how normal hearing anatomy and physiology works, we will be able to explore the various causes and trajectories of hearing impairments, including presbycusis, or age-related hearing loss. We'll also explore the effects of hearing loss on individuals' hearing, as well as overall wellness. We will explore how hearing is tested and evaluated in a clinical setting and various aspects of the hearing healthcare system. There have been some recent developments, including recent congressional mandate legalizing over-the-counter hearing aids. Lastly, we will explore various solutions or ways of mitigating hearing impairment. These include how we can optimize our listening environment to reduce noise and other distracting signals, how talkers can improve the way they communicate to you, as well as how individuals themselves can set themselves up for optimized hearing. And last, we will explore various hearing technologies that can be used to mitigate hearing loss. These include hearing aids, which is, of course, is what everyone thinks of, but also personal sound amplification products, implantable solutions, including cochlear implants or bone conduction implantable devices. So that's just a little overview of what the course will entail, and hope to see you there.
Good morning. For those interested in technology, we present the second annual Technology Hotspots course. Technology dominates our lives. Computers, tablets, smartphones, heating and cooling, appliances, transportation, and medicine are just a few common technologies. In our 5 sessions, our experts will provide the basic knowledge needed to understand some of these technologies. As you will see, much of this new technology uses artificial intelligence. Our first guest will be the well-known member of the National Academy of Medicine, Dr. Robert Wallace, discussing the role of artificial intelligence in medicine. AI is already well ingrained in medical diagnostics, reading X-rays, diagnosing retinal disease, and more, and is now extending into helping make therapeutic decisions. Using examples, he will describe both the opportunities and the risks of this rapidly emerging technology. The second section will be by David Ginsburg, Vice President of Communications and Public Information at Meta, Facebook, who will discuss the technology of social media. We all enjoy the communication and information provided by social media and its simplicity, but it is actually a highly integrated computer system using complex algorithms and artificial intelligence to try and give you the interactions and correct information. David will provide the information on this technology. The third session will be by Olivier Massat, a local artist discussing digital art. A computer can be used by an artist in many ways. There are programs to do art in 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional stuff, with ink, with paint, or just in digital form. New programs are developed almost daily that will use AI to produce or alter art. Olivier will discuss these programs and their benefits and faults. I will lead the fourth session on the role of DNA in our lives. After giving a simple description of the chemistry of DNA, I will discuss genotyping by Ancestry and 23andMe. I will finish with a discussion of CRISPR, what it can do today and where it may go tomorrow. The fifth session will be by Dr. George Pick on space junk. We've been putting satellites up for almost 70 years and continue to put them up at a rapid rate. Many of these satellites fall to Earth and burn up in the atmosphere, but some remain in space long after their useful life. These remnants travel at 20,000 miles per hour, making space navigation difficult. George will discuss the problems in more detail and suggest what the future may bring. In the last session, we'll break up into small groups to discuss each of these sessions. We hope you will join us.
Hi, my name is Barbara Phillip. I'm excited to be offering a new course this fall. It's called Organizing What You Know, a practical guide to personal knowledge management. This will be my first time teaching with Encore Learning, but I bring with me 7 years of experience teaching graduate students at George Mason University and over 2 decades working in the field of knowledge management. This course is designed for people who want to make better use of what they already know, whether that means organizing files, notes, capturing ideas before they disappear, or passing on life experiences in meaningful ways. So through a series of 6 sessions, we will explore practical ways to reduce information overload. We will discuss how to create systems that reflect how you think, and how to use simple tools, whether digital or analog, to support learning, memory, and even creativity. Each session will include a mix of short presentations, small group discussions, and we will always have time to ask questions and try things out, especially around the technology. There's no required readings, but I tend to share a large and varied set of optional resources for those who want to dig a little deeper between the sessions. So we'll also explore a range of technologies in support of personal knowledge management, but don't worry, you don't need to be tech savvy to participate. You just need a dose of curiosity and readiness to explore some new ideas. That would be great. And finally, some of the questions that we'll explore together include things like, how can I better manage the information that I come across every day? What kind of tools can help me store and connect my thoughts and insights? And how can I turn life experiences into something I can share with others? So if you're looking for a course that goes beyond technology tips and invites you to reflect, to experiment, and to connect, I hope that you will join us this fall.
Hi, I'm Jim Griefer. I'm an economist and lecturer and a frequent contributor to Encore Learning. I'm excited to share with you this fall my 4-lecture series, which I call the Freedom and Democracy Project. America was born in a battle for freedom. Most of us grew up in what we call the land of the free. But as we all know, America's history of freedom has been decidedly mixed. In fact, the concept of freedom itself is complex and murky. For example, I remember reading a speech by Abraham Lincoln, which he gave right in the middle of the Civil War, in which he stated, quote, "Both sides declare for freedom, but in using the same term, they clearly do not have the same meaning." The irony of that statement at that time is obvious. But who was right? Were they both right? Could they possibly be both right? Thus, the concept of freedom is complicated, and that's what my first talk will be about. We'll look at what some of the great philosophers and leaders said about the different views of freedom, the various sources of freedom, and how freedom is granted and taken away in modern societies. Then in my second talk, we'll examine freedom in the countries of the world. There are 195 countries in the United Nations. Only 1/4 of them can you call free. Another quarter are partially free, but that means that half are not free at all. Well, what makes a country free? What are the institutions and characteristics within a country that makes it more or less free? And more importantly, how does America stack up in all this? Are we as free as we think we are? Are we more or less free than we used to be? And that's my third talk. We'll look at America's history of freedom, examine the evolution of the institutions that lead to freedom, and the ups and downs in freedom for the American people themselves. And that'll take us to our fourth talk. What if Americans lose faith in these institutions? Studies have shown that Americans have indeed been losing trust in them. Why is that, though? Is it because the institutions have become less trustworthy? Or is it something else, something a little darker, maybe? And because these institutions are so closely associated with freedom, is there a chance that we might lose our own? Well, tune in. In this series, I'll address these questions, these issues, and more on Wednesdays at noon from October 1 to October 22nd. Now, this series will be what's called hybrid, which means it'll be both in class and on Zoom. Now, you can enjoy the full series either way, but I really hope that I get to see many of you in person at George Mason University in Arlington. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.
Hello, my name is Rob Albro. I'm a professor and associate director of American University's Center for Latin American and Latino Studies. I'm also trained as a sociocultural anthropologist, and for over 25 years, I've researched, written, and taught about the emergence of indigenous politics in Bolivia and the Andes. Latin America has more than 40 million indigenous people, more than any other global region. This encompasses significant diversity within and across indigenous populations and communities, including a growing urban indigenous presence. For more than 500 years, indigenous peoples throughout the hemisphere have had to navigate, adapt to, at times accommodate, and at times resist colonial and post-colonial occupation and contentious coexistence with the evolution of the region's nation states. However, it would be a mistake to view their story only through the lens of history and survival. This course will examine the rich legacies of Latin America's indigenous peoples by surveying the contemporary diversity of indigeneity throughout the region. We will give particular attention to the many ways indigenous peoples have helped shape the region's history and identity. We will also consider challenges they continue to negotiate and their varied social, cultural, economic, political, and ecological contributions to present-day Latin America. Touching ground in Mexico, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Ecuador, Guatemala, and other Latin American countries, each week will be dedicated to a specific topic, from forms of state repression of indigenous communities to impacts of indigenous-led social movements, ongoing struggles over land and territory, and relationships to ecosystems and indigenous contributions to environmental conservation, among other topics. We will examine their changing identities, embrace of new media technologies, forms of cultural representation, and different paths in the pursuit of self-determination. An optional, short, informative, and non-technical reading is assigned for each unit, and I will come prepared to frame and discuss each week's topic, often with visual accompaniments. But the course is designed as a discussion, and your questions, contributions, and insights will be essential ingredients. Overall, this course is an introduction to the many dimensions of contemporary indigenous life across the hemisphere, and the diverse ways they continue to be intimately woven into Latin America's social fabric.
Hello and welcome to Hot Topics in Psychology. I'm Janice McLean, a retired psychologist and instructor from The Ohio State University, and I'm very excited for this new course designed with the help of my previous students at Encore. Here are the basics. Again, this is a new course with a new format more reminiscent of the old Phil Donahue show than a typical lecture format with just limited class interaction time. So if you're more of a listener observer, there's not a problem with that. We need listeners and observers. It will be a 2-hour class that enables the presentation of a hot and relevant topic, enabling questions, discussion. What will we learn and discuss? Everything from the age-old question, are men and women fundamentally different, or are we sexist for even asking that? Spoiler, yes, they're fundamentally different. No, we are not sexist for asking that. We'll explore that. That spills into the transgender athlete uproar, which we will discuss, but from a critical thinking exploration point of view. What makes a sociopath? Think Mendel's brothers, Epstein, Bertie Madoff, nature or nurture or both. On the other end of the spectrum, what makes what we call a super altruist? The kind of person who runs into traffic to save someone else, a stranger. We'll talk to a researcher who had that very experience. What is the manosphere? And how is it going to have an incredible impact on your life in the next 2 years and beyond? We can talk about politically charged terms and issues, trad wife, woke, the gender, sexual, and identity spectrum, and how research, which is growing, is leaning very strongly toward a nature foundation in this area of study. We'll talk discrimination, stereotypes, persuasion, cult behavior, and dynamics. Is there a way to teach kindness, or are we aggressive by nature? And the speaker I mentioned, Robert Goldman, is fascinating. He is an attorney, a psychologist, an author, and a regular contributor to Psychology Today magazine. His research that he'll discuss is his time in the prison system, exploring the difference between basic criminality and mental health issues in the incarcerated. Finally, we'll do a multimedia class on how to put one foot in front of the other in very challenging times for coping. I will guarantee that you will leave feeling better from that class than when you entered. Come aboard, be intellectually stimulated, meet new friends, sign up, fasten your seatbelt for what I predict will be a terrific time together. And I hope to see you in the fall.
Okay, there's been a little bit of irony here this morning because the video about Michael Stutz's course on aging in the brain disappeared on us, and I don't know why, but I just want to put in a plug for that course.
We are going to pull it up and show it so we can chat for a little bit and we will share it in a moment.
Okay, great.
It was in between a couple of categories and somehow got missed, and we're going to have it presented in just a couple minutes. So people hang on and we can answer other questions, debrief on all the 40 courses you've already learned about. Just an amazing, and I'm just so impressed so many people have stayed on for the duration of this morning. So thank you all for sticking with us. I do want to share that a couple people chimed in that why can't we do this in person? And though, Encore Learning's been around for 22 years, and the preview events were really a signature event where people would come together and watch the instructors live present their talks. And when we went into a virtual environment during COVID, we presented these virtually, and I've heard really lots of praise for having this event on Zoom. But I think we still can think about how we could do this both in person and on Zoom. And as we do hybrid classes, we could offer an opportunity for people to view the videos in person at George Mason. So my plan is to poll members and ask, if you're interested in watching these together at George Mason. And maybe some instructors would be there live to talk, but primarily still be virtual. I'm just going to see if we have other questions that have come in. The recording of the whole preview will be on our YouTube channel tomorrow morning. And each clip is individually saved. So if you know that you missed a certain video or want to watch one again, you'll be able to find that in the playlist for the fall course previews. All of the videos are there individually as the short clip, and we will also have the whole recording of this 2.5 hour program.
And I would also encourage everybody to take a look at the website, because you can see the classes in so many different ways, and it's worth spending a second to decide, okay, which way do I want to look at it? I've been looking at it as a grid view. You can look at it just as a calendar, so you'll see, oh, well, when do these classes start and stop? And I think the calendar view is especially helpful as you try to narrow down which classes can I take, what can I fit in my own calendar. So take a look at all the different, and you can see the whole catalog online. So it's a great resource.
Absolutely.
For sure, because I'm dizzy right now, coming to listening to all of these presentations every term it's kind of like shopping for furniture. It's like, oh, I want to take that one, I want to take that one. And my list of courses I want to take is much longer than the courses that I actually can take because of constraints on my own time. But we have a really exciting fall term in store. So I'll sit down and sort out what it is I'm going to take. I am going to be a class aide for Barbara Piloff's Organizing What You Know course. I am so excited about that course as well. Barbara is an expert in technology, and particularly what do we call artificial intelligence, which seems to be just taking over our lives. I mean, you do a simple little, what we used to call a Google search, and all of a sudden AI pops up and organizes the information for us in ways that I'm just not accustomed to, but kind of liking. But I'm also kind of concerned about things that are happening in the whole world of AI. And I know that Barbara will share a lot of information about that with us in her course and in subsequent.
Right. We are in such an overload of information. If you look at your email inbox and you realize, oh my God, there are 100 items there I haven't yet figured out if I want to read or what to do with. So I think being able to understand how to deal with this overload is going to be great.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I don't want to overload you, but we are going to share one more video with you.
Okay.
And it's quite appropriate that it's a course about aging in the brain. And so Donna is pulling up the video.
Brain is wider than the sky. The brain is deeper than the sea. Who wrote that? Oliver Sacks? A renowned neuroscientist? Neither. It was Emily Dickinson, 160 years ago. Even non-scientists seem to recognize that the brain is among the last frontiers. I'm Mike Stutz, and I'll be teaching Aging in the Brain for the 4th time this fall. I'm a retired academic neuropsychologist who was both challenged and privileged by 33 years researching, teaching, and assessing our most complex organ. We of the Encore Learning age cohort are probably more concerned about our brains than younger generations. Therefore, my objectives for this course are to provide not only an appreciation of the brain's complexity, but a general understanding of how it works for us. We'll overview the normal aging process with particular emphasis on the brain. We'll then consider the brain disorders that are more prevalent in older age, such as mild cognitive impairment and Alzheimer's disease, but mainly to distinguish these from normal aging changes. Finally, and here's the good news, we'll learn ways to keep our brains healthier and maybe even improve them as we age. In my academic career at Eastern Virginia Medical School, the mode of teaching at which I most excelled was the seminar format. Though we might not be a small group, I hope to weave interactive exchanges into the didactic framework I just outlined. I hope you and your brain will join us in October.
Well, that was a great way to conclude our program today. Remember to check your login and password before Monday morning. Try logging in, check your membership status. If you need help with that, get in touch with us today or tomorrow. We may not respond to you over the weekend, and we'll be busy Monday morning. We'll help people as we can, but most of our members are pretty experienced at registration right now, and we've passed a couple of semesters that's gone quite smoothly. And don't be afraid if you are on the wait list. You'll have a good chance of getting in because there's a lot of shifting that happens right after registration.
Okay, well, are there any more questions?
I'm checking. No, at this time we're all set. So
okay.
Thanks.
Well, and good luck to everybody making your decisions. It's going to be tough, but rewarding.
Indeed.
Enjoy. Happy viewing and good luck with the registration. Thank you to all of the volunteers that made this possible in so many ways. We have Encore Learning has 150 volunteers, so we're thankful for every one of you. Have a great day.